Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everybody, and welcome to ReZOO, the Zoo Review Podcast. I'm your host, Jack Baker, and today I am joined by my incredible co host and fellow passionate zoo lover, the one and only Jodie McFarlane. Say hello, Jodie.
Hello, everyone.
Much better than usual, much more
I
enthusiastic.
know, I'm enthusiastic today. Very excited about what's to come.
Presented by Pangolin, the conservation podcast, this sister show promises to explore, appreciate, and highlight the fantastic conservation work of zoos from around the world, while also offering a perspective on the visitor experience.
So, today we are talking about St Andrew's Aquarium, which is a small but diverse aquarium whose residents come from every corner of the globe. Everywhere from the Amazon to the Kalahari is represented.
We are going to walk you through our zoo experience, highlight some of our favourite species, and probably reminisce a little bit about my time at St Andrews University. We'll then wrap up with our two starfish and a wish. And so, yeah. Sorry, the bad puns are going to keep on coming. So, before I ruin another pun, let's get started. Welcome back to another ReZOO, everyone. And thank you once again, Jodie, for joining me. Today, of course, we're discussing St. Andrew's Aquarium. And as always, first question, what was your previous experience with St. Andrews? Had you been there before? How many times had you been there? Yeah, tell me a little bit about your previous experiences with St. Andrew's Aquarium.
Yes, so I had been there before, many times before, more times than I can count. I feel like almost all of them have been with you as well.
Yep.
And I absolutely love St Andrew's Aquarium. I always have a good time. It's in such a nice location, and it's the first time I've been in ages when we went the other week. So I was very excited to go and had a lovely time. And I'm very excited to talk about it because I feel like this is probably the first aquarium that we've talked about so far on ReZOO where I've been there too, and it wasn't just you that was there. So I'm feeling very excited for this chat today.
Yes, yes, because last time our last aquarium was Loch Lomond Sea Life, and it was just me. So you kind of interviewed me. So this time you have your chance to shine and share your love of the under the sea world. And yeah, since recording the Loch Lomond Sea Life review, I should mention I've been back and liked it just as much the second time round. I was reunited with April, the turtle, who still love her. And so yes, just a side note for regular listeners there. But yes, my kind of history with St Andrew's Aquarium, which we're talking about today, is yeah, a long one. I feel like I
Mhm.
started I don't know if I'd been before I started university. Um the first day I moved into halls, my parents were dispatched there with my sister to distract themselves while I unpacked my things. And then ever since then, I've been by myself and with friends and all sorts of things many, many times. Loved it. It was a very kind of tranquil place during university where
Mm.
if you were stressed or if you were kind of just needed space or some time to just chill with people or by yourself, whatever you were doing, you could just go and admire the fish. And I feel like it has this nice calming effect. It's placed right on the sea in the town, which I will always, it's always going to be the one for me, St. Andrews. Just the most beautiful town in the world. And so, yeah, just before I get too nostalgic at this early on in the review, just yeah, a long, complex, wonderful history with both St Andrews and I suppose the aquarium as well by association. Um, yes, so that was my kind of history with it. Um, but to kind of disassociate from all of our happy memories there in the past, this time, what was your first impression, Jodie? What was when you first walked into the aquarium? What did you think?
What did I think? I think I was struck by the fact that it was quiet because I
Yep.
feel like whenever we've been before, it's maybe been a weekend and it's been busy. But this time we went in the afternoon, didn't we? Because we'd gone and had lunch first and then went. And I suppose that would be the first thing to say is that even going in the afternoon and starting your visit in the afternoon, you still had plenty of time to get around and see everything and you didn't feel rushed and it was actually quite a nice time to go because it was a bit more chilled out as you were going rounds as well.
Yeah, it was nice. We walked in, it was kind of you're greeted by the classic kind of I don't know if we can slag off this particular brand because they might sponsor us in the future, but the classic annoying kids toy ride playing the classic annoying kids toy music. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, besides that, you have the instantly calming and refocusing Malawi tank, which has
Mm-hmm.
I can never remember, and I'm going to mess up the pronunciation. Is it cichlids or chichlids? Whatever they are from Lake Malawi.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So
Yeah,
I always said cichlids.
cichlid.
So
Uh-huh.
I would go with that. But yeah. Yeah, a
Yeah.
nice chill. You're right. It was a real sort of juxtaposition of a lovely chill tank and like those kids rides that are always singing like Peppa Pig or something like that. I feel like is every aquarium sponsored by that? Because every aquarium I've been to has got some kind of loud, annoying kids ride plonked right in the middle of it, just to ruin the ambience.
Jodie,
Anyway, that's that rant on that. But yes, back to the tranquil Lake Malawi. Let's focus on that. Focus on the
I
camp.
love I just love the fact that I was like, I'm not going to name the brand because we might get a sponsorship in the future. And you've just outed Peppa Pig as the brand. I feel like
You know my feelings on Peppa Jack.
very similar to Adele in her Instagram live. Collab with Peppa Pig. Hey, that's Jodie walking in to an aquarium. So yeah, so there's that, and then we walked up to the ticket desk. Very nice guy. Scanned our tickets, and we went down many flights of stairs to
Yes.
start our adventure.
Mhm.
Um,
So I suppose that
and
would be a good point to mention right off the bat is that St Andrew's Aquarium, because it's small and because of the layout of the building, there are many stairs and they don't have a lift or anything like that. I guess because it's kind of impossible to put a lift in a building like that. So at the moment, it might not be the most accessible to visitors who perhaps have mobility issues or in a wheelchair or like kids in buggies and that kind of thing. Just something to be aware of. But the stairs were fine for us, and yes, we went down many flights of stairs and made our way into the first room.
yes, which is a kind of jungle themed room. Now I remember this room from when I first started going to uni. It was very, very different. It was kind of a waist height pool, which had all sorts of different things in it with kind of a shallower water. But when they've changed it recently, and now you go in and it's kind of lots of ceiling to floor tanks.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of walk through the door, and on your right hand side, there's a small tank which I think has types of tetra and smaller fish. And then to your left, there was a big tank, which unfortunately was being cleaned when we went, that usually has catfish and pacu and all sorts of kind of Amazonian fish, which are fantastic. I love catfish. Catfish were always one of my favorites because they are very big in kind
Mm-hmm.
of intimidating looking things, but actually are quite cool. I'd say gentle giants. I don't know if I've not seen one out in the wild. Maybe they're a lot meaner there, but when we worked in an aquarium, they were always very kind of dopey, lovely things. Um, and the black pacu again, a kind of unusual juxtaposition, I suppose, to the catfish, which is very known. You have this pacu, which is kind of these big, round, kind of black, huge fish, which are always very interesting to see. Have very weird teeth that look almost
Mm-hmm.
human. And so, yeah, really cool first kind of big tank to make your first impression. Obviously, it wasn't like that when we went together recently, but I don't know. Did you have any thoughts
Yeah,
on that?
it's a shame that there was nothing in it at the time, but we could imagine what would be in it because we know what those fish look like. And in that case, I think it is a good sort of first impression tank to have because it is big, it's floor to ceiling, and you've got big, impressive fish in it. And then the little tank that was next to it had, I can't remember what they were called, but it was, the little sort of leaf fish. And they were supposed to look like sort of rotten dead leaves, and then that's how they sort of camouflage themselves in. I think you took a picture of them, but I thought that was
Yeah.
really cool because that was a fish that I hadn't seen before. And in our time, we've seen many a fish. So it's always a nice surprise to see one that is kind of new to us. And I thought it was such a quirky little guy, and I loved him.
Yes, it is the South American leaf fish. And I also have noted here the scientific name, which I will butcher for everyone in case they're interested. Monoceros polycanthus, perhaps. They are fish that look like leaves, basically. Evolution and camouflage at its absolute finest. Um, and yes, fantastic. And you can see why, if they are South American and they're living in the same thing as, in the same waters as massive catfish, they would
Hmm.
want to disguise themselves quite effectively, actually. This one, though, I felt was overly confident. The one that we saw was sat right
Yeah,
at the front of the tank, like, "Hello, look at me, I'm camouflaged." And you're like, "It's not that good. You're not, you're
yeah.
not fooling anyone there."
The idea is to blend in, and he was just like slapped up against the glass for all to see. So it's kind of missing the point there. But it was good for us because we got a really good view of this cool fish. So yeah.
Yes, and then of course they also had the iguanas, the green iguanas, when you first walked in, which
Hmm.
I really liked. I have an affinity for reptiles and especially big lizards. I think they're very bizarre, interesting things. I think one of my favorite things was they just fought. I think yes, I'm looking at a picture I took of the sign. I just wanted to confirm this, and it's just green iguanas can fall from 40 to 50 feet without getting hurt. What a fun
Hmm,
fact! I don't
I
know
know.
why they felt the need to highlight that, but
And what a mood as well, because they were just kind of lounging on the branches, and you get the vibe that if they did sort of roll over or slip and fall, they wouldn't really be caring. Like they'd just be going down. So it's a good job that they can survive those falls, because if they went down, I think they'd go down like a sack of spuds.
yeah, especially it's quite funny going there having the kind of association of going there at university when I would often be with people who were very, very hungover. Not me, of course. I'm very innocent and I would never do something like that. Um, going there with those people who couldn't fall 2 or 3 feet without seriously injuring themselves. It's nice to know that that's an interesting kind of fact to begin with.
Mm.
And then yes, before I shame any more of my friends, so yeah, there was the green iguanas to start, which or one of the first things to start. And again, yeah, love them, love them, love them, love them. Yeah, and we keep. I don't know. I kind of want to reflect more or spend more time here, but I feel like we're kind of cracking through. And I think what struck me at this point was before we moved on, you kind of came to piranhas, really
Mhm.
cool, interesting species. You kind of got the lore about the red kind of belly and the kind of yeah the kind of I don't know, I can't remember if this was on the sign, but I always liked the stories that we would tell when we worked at an aquarium about how the red sometimes is said to represent the blood of the animals and things that they killed. So that's kind of a cool thing to kind of highlight about the piranhas. Interesting stuff. What was the thing about their teeth as well? Their teeth are kind of they they had all
Like
their teeth,
interlocking.
they're interlocking, but then also their teeth are they're not like regular teeth in that when they fall out, they don't fall out like one individually, they fall out kind of as a chunk. So like
Mhm.
they'll lose kind of a big chunk of teeth at once, which is quite interesting. And the fact that they had to have these kind of lips that are large and protective so they don't accidentally eat their own face because they have to have these big kind of blown up, they yeah, big kind of plastic surgery-esque lips, which yeah, is a bold look, but love them nonetheless. I don't know. I feel like I've been rambling a while. Have you got thoughts, Jodie, on what we saw next?
Well, my thought that struck me in this area was about signs. And I feel
Oh,
like I'm always
yeah.
banging on about signs, but anyone who's been a follower of ReZOO up until now knows that I feel very passionately about signs. And I liked the signs in this area. Firstly, because they were like almost backlit,
Mhm.
which meant they were really easy to read. And that really struck me as a brainwave. And I don't know why, because as we know, aquariums typically are areas with quite low lighting, obviously for the fish and their comfort, and it can then, as a result, be difficult to read the signs. And I don't know why I'd never thought of making this the signage backlit before, but it seemed like such a simple solution, and I don't know why I'd never thought of it, and it really made a difference. So that was good. That was a little star for the signage. And what I also liked about the signage in this area was that on one hand they had loads of information, like really scientific stuff, and the adults could stand and read. But also on the other side, they had like a little box that had something like fun facts for kids, and then like a few bullet points of just a few cool facts for kids. And I really liked that because then they were hitting both sort of demographics. You could have all the in-depth stuff for the people like me who were standing reading the whole sign, but then you also had a shorter little chunk for kids or for people that just didn't want to stand and read it all. And I really appreciated that because sometimes I feel like signage is a hit or a miss. It's either not detailed enough or it's too long and no one's going to read it. So I feel like they struck a nice balance with the signage.
Mhm. Can I also, I'm going to jump in and just talk a little bit about what I appreciated about the signs, which
Mm-hmm.
was they highlighted the Amazon as a whole. And I think as far as habitats and forests and places go, the Amazon is like the elephant of the habitat world. I feel like the Amazon gets a lot of conservation attention compared to some other areas, which perhaps are equally as threatened or more threatened, but get less attention. It's just kind of this charismatic, wonderful, mysterious place in people's minds.
Mm-hmm.
But what I liked about the signage about the Amazon here was that it kind of highlighted the under the water aspects. And I think a lot of people when they talk about the Amazon, talk about it in terms of football fields and how many trees are cut down and the effects that it has on kind of the animals that live in those trees, whether they be kind of birds or kind of monkeys or whether they be kind of whatever they are, big cats, sloths, whatever is hanging around in the Amazon. They focus on those and they sometimes forget. when you clear trees, it affects more than just the kind of animals that live in those trees. It affects the river systems and the other things that go around about it. So I appreciated the fact that by highlighting the Amazon in this context, while sometimes it can be overdone, here it didn't feel that way because you were kind of thinking about the under the water aspects, which is not necessarily the element that's highlighted all the time.
Yeah, like it was
Yeah.
hitting on all the sort of biodiversity, not just like the most obvious things.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. But when you round the corner, it turns from the Amazon, and the first thing you see is it's an African dwarf crocodile. So we've jumped halfway across the globe. We're going to Africa, and we're seeing a crocodile. And what was your thoughts on the crocodile? I have lots of thoughts because I love crocodiles, but I'll let you jump in
Yeah,
first.
I mean, I'll let you kind of take the lead on the crocodiles then. I mean, I like them. They're always cool. They're always nice to see. And I didn't realize until afterwards when I was looking at the photos that I had taken that there were two of them lying next to each other. When I was looking at them with my eyes, I only spotted one, and it was sitting in such a good position with its head like just resting on this little ledge up out of the water. So it was like the perfect photo opportunity. So I just took a photo, and then when I got home and I zoomed in on it, I realized that there was actually two. They were sitting so close together that they just blended into one, which I guess, you know, is a point to highlight about how good they are at camouflaging, because I didn't even see it with my own eyes in front of me. But there you go. But yes, what were your thoughts, since you have many, and probably they're a bit more intelligent than what I just said?
Well, I feel like so they're the smallest species of crocodile in the world, and I think despite that fact, they were beautiful, incredible, lovely, amazing things. And I think here in the UK, especially, we fail a lot at representing reptiles effectively. And I think the use of a crocodile here was very good because it was in a nice space. There was two of them, interesting to see. I just really appreciated the kind of effort that they'd put into having like a bigger predatory kind of reptile opposed to most places which buy a couple corn snakes, a couple bearded dragons, and they call it a reptile display. Like,
Mm.
I liked having something a bit different. And it just, no shade to the bearded dragons and corn snakes, because I
Oh
do love
no,
them very,
we love
very,
them.
but there's something about seeing crocodiles which I just love. And I think we more places need to highlight animals because yes, they're affected by climate change. They're affected by habitat changes and loss and all of these things and hunting and the illegal kind of either pet trade or kind of being hunted for their skin. There's all of these things that affect crocodiles, but they're not highlighted necessarily. And I think it's a good thing to highlight. I don't know whether this is just because I've been watching a lot of Crikey, It's the Irwins recently. So I've been thinking a lot about crocodiles and alligators and all sorts of things. But yeah, just love them. I should have said, should I do? I was gonna do my Australian accent. I'm getting good at it. Well, maybe I can track this
Well, why
on
don't
the
you do it
podcast.
and let the listeners be the judge of if you're
I
getting good
could.
at it or not?
Well, I could do it now, and then every time we encounter an Australian theme, I can bring it back, and we can see if I get better. Because I feel like we're my whole family now just walks around, um, shouting "Crikey!" like at each other. And to the point where my dad has just bought a pair of Crocs, which was asking for trouble because now
Mhm.
every time I walk into the living room and he's wearing these Crocs, I'm like, crikey, she's a beauty. Like, which is not a good, like, like all of these, like, she's a beauty, eh? Crikey, crikey, crikey. Like, that's all I do constantly.
And
And
knowing your
so
dad and his character, I bet he just loves that moment. I bet he just appreciates the humor there so much.
he's not a fan of the show. I have to say, me and my mum love it. We're crying, we're watching TV, and he likes it, but he isn't on the level that we are of trying to be the Irwins. So maybe one day he'll catch up.
Fair.
Um, but yes, we're all in love with Robert in my house. We're a very strong Robert Stan household. This means nothing to many people, but I saw the gateway into this discussion through the crocodiles, and I took it. Uh, but before we were kind of taken off course too much, crikey, that was a dangerous course to go down. You then move past the crocodiles, and there are even more reptiles and fantastic things. There are terrapins. There was a snapping turtle, and there was a type of snake whose name has escaped me. Oh, there was Chinese water dragons.
Mhm. There was
And what?
also a tank that had archerfish in it, and this most
Yeah.
random little fish that had 4 eyes, which I loved.
Yes, it was the. I've written this down. The four-eyed fish. That's very helpful.
Mm.
Scientific name. Oh, what a name. And an easier one to pronounce. Anableps anableps.
Oh,
Two the
love it.
same. So
Yeah.
good they say it twice. Um, so it was yeah, four-eyed fish, which was bizarre but kind of cool because it has the two eyes on top of its head and then
Mhm.
underneath, so it can see both under the water and atop the water. And I'd never seen one before, but I don't know. Did you
Yeah.
have? I feel like I jumped in there, but did you have any more thoughts on that?
No, again, it was just touching on the fact that it's quite like it's always interesting for us to see a fish that we haven't seen before. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that an aquarium that can still surprise me. So yeah, I love that. And then the little archer fish in there as well. Always love those guys. I feel like they're an underappreciated fave. People don't know what's so cool about them. So yeah, that was a really nice, unusual little tank to have just before you moved on to the rest of the reptiles.
Well, tell us what is unusual about them. You can't drop a bomb like that, like, oh, people just don't know what's unusual about them, and not then tell us what is unusual about them.
Well, they get their name, archerfish, because of the way that they sort of take down their prey. So they can come right up to the sort of surface of the water and then shoot out of their mouths a big stream of water that can then hit, prey that might be on branches or leaves and things just up above the water, and then knocks them into the water, and that's how they catch them. So the big jet of water that they shoot out is a bit like shooting an arrow, I guess. So they get called an archerfish.
Hmm. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Like, see, we learn something new every day, listeners. You learn something new every time you listen, I hope. If you knew that already, I'm sorry. That was interesting for some people, I'm sure. Uh, and then, of course, yes, we move on to the rest of the reptiles, which
Mhm.
um, I'm going to share a story that happened to, I can't remember who it was, but when we used to work at an aquarium, I remember someone came up to one of my colleagues and just went, they were leaving, and they just went, I just got so sick of looking at fish. And it made me laugh because it's like you've come to an aquarium, of course you're going to see lots of fish, but what
Mhm.
this aquarium I think does well is it counters that by having lots of reptiles and stuff. So yeah, there was then the kind
Yeah.
of water dragons and snapping turtle and terrapins and snakes and all sorts of stuff. Did you have any more thoughts on this area before we kind of move on to the next section? Any thoughts on those reptiles?
Um, just that, yeah, I kind of agree that it is nice to have a bit of a break from, just fish, although you've gone to an aquarium, so you are there to see fish. But something I think that St Andrews does well is that every tank feels like quite a charismatic tank. Like, not to be that person, but sometimes you get a tank that's just fish. I'm doing air
Mhm.
quotes there, like just fish, and it can be a little bit boring or a bit nondescript. There wasn't many tanks like that of just fish. Most of them there was something about, even if it was fish, it was like the little four-eyed fish. There was something a bit unusual about them or something that made them stand out. And yeah, I just feel like everything in that area was quite a standout. It didn't feel like there were any sort of filler tanks. The terrapin display was really big. And that's always a good one because they're always doing something. There's so many of them
Mhm.
swimming around, like there's always something to watch. The alligator snapping turtle that they had was swimming about as well. He was real active. I feel like that's
Mhm.
the most active I've ever seen one of those guys, because when we had one at the aquarium we worked in, he like never moved unless he was getting fed. So that was nice to see one actually moving for a change. And yeah, the little was it water dragons or water lizards? Those guys loved you because every time you moved, they were on it.
What can I say? I have that effect on people.
Oh.
I they were just following me up and down the glass, backwards and forwards, back, and I loved it. I tried to take a selfie with one, which if you follow us on social media at Pangolin Podcast, I'll try and post soon so you can see
Hmm.
my new best friends, and how
And I feel
gorgeous
like
they
that
were.
was a decent sized enclosure as well. That was another thing that I noticed a few times going around St Andrews, was that the tanks and the enclosures were quite a good size. So yeah, all in all, just feel like it was a really strong first section to walk through.
Yes, yes. And I think we've spent so much, like, I was like, this one's going to be shorter. I'm sure we're going to see that every time. This one will nail being shorter this time. But the fact that we've
Yeah.
just spent, I don't even know, maybe 20 minutes on this first section just goes to show how strong it was. But then, of course, yes, you move through some doors And we move into section 2, which is kind of more Scottish sea life. So we're switching to very marine type things. You have and openers for this section. You've got jellyfish on one side and octopus on the other, which
Yeah.
we're starting with the weird and wonderful, and I think it's
Yeah.
a perfect start. Thoughts, Jodie?
Thoughts were I love jellyfish. Absolutely love them. I find them so mesmerizing and captivating, and I could just watch them all day. So really love them. They're so weird. They're so cool. I just love them. And then the octopus, we couldn't really see very easily, but being aquarium people, we knew
Yeah.
this, and we know the kind of tricks for where to look to see if you can spot it. And we think we did manage to spot the octopus, kind of hidden away behind a leaf. But it could be a little bit tricky to spot if you didn't know what you were looking for. But yeah, just goes to show it's worth spending a few minutes at a tank. Don't just take one glance and say that there's nothing in there, because a lot of the time there is something in there. You just have to spot it.
Yes, exactly. And it shows the moment of living in the moment. Don't go to an aquarium or go to a zoo or wherever it is and just go to take pictures of really clearly placed things. Take time to stop and appreciate everything properly, and see it. And even if it's not in an aesthetic place to take a picture of, stop, look, learn, and love it. Just love it. So yes, I think that's excellent start. Jellyfish always strong. We then move on to a tank filled with animals, which I mean, in the Loch Lomond review, I was very harsh, and I said I didn't need to see another sea bass in my life. And I think I would stand by that. But
Yeah.
I think for some people, this will have been interesting to see. Someone out there loves sea bass, and they also had cod and
And
other
polyps
things.
as well.
Yes, to kind of switch it up a little bit. So yeah, couldn't complain too much about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
just not necessarily the tank for me.
Yes. Yeah, it is good to highlight our sort of natural marine life and things that you get around Scotland and the UK. So yes, good, very good for educating people on that. But I feel like we have been educated to death about that, so we don't need to know any more about sea bass.
Yes. So we'll move on to something which I'm sorry, bass, but yeah, there was what was it? I've got this at sea bass, saithe, pollock, and Atlantic cod. So there was at least a variation, a pick and mix of grey and silver fish, if you will. Followed immediately by a Atlantic wolffish, which was pretty cool. Like it looked scary, and I quite liked them. They looked like they would mess you up, and I was a fan of that. Especially because the sea is so strange and it's filled with such strange things. It's nice to see the strangeness represented. And yeah, so I don't
Oh, there
really
was
know how to.
a lobster in that area as well, wasn't there?
Oh yes,
There's
this
a
is.
lobster? How could we have skipped that?
There was also a lobster. Yes, which I mean, yeah, I mean another one interesting, but I don't know if I have much to say about it because it was just kind of
No.
chilling and hiding. They don't really
Yeah.
do much, but they're beautiful nonetheless.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
really have anything to add. I just thought we'd better see. I think because when we worked in an aquarium, you never saw the lobsters. Like I worked there for how long did I work there? About 2.5 years. So I spent many hours of my life in that underwater tunnel, and I can count on one hand how many times I saw the lobsters. So the fact that we walked past that tank and he was just there, he was right there, you could see him. Just had to mention that, just purely for the fact he was there. But yeah, don't have much else to
Yes.
add.
Yes. Well, actually, I think I have to make a retraction. While you were talking about your love there, I was looking at some notes I have on the wolffish, and I think I need to. They may look scary, but in fact, interestingly, they are apparently quite shy and elusive creatures. They swim away from
Oh.
divers, but
So
when
maybe they wouldn't
removed,
mess you up then.
no. But when removed from the water, they will snap their jaws. So maybe a little bit of
Okay.
messing, just an appropriate level of messing up, which I'm a fan of. Uh, so yes, there was the wolffish. We sat, all sorts of stuff. I'm sorry, listeners. I'm reading through my notes, and so I was kind of like that was what the was. That was me skipping through things. So
Well,
yes,
while you're doing, something I would mention about this area was that they had a lot of tanks in this area that are sort of, I don't know what the official name is, but almost like a bubble tank or like a dome tank, whereby
bulbous.
like it kind of sticks out of the wall, and then it means that it has a sort of magnifying effect. So you can go and look in, and it sort of magnifies everything that's inside. So they had what was in those tanks? There was like urchins and anemones and stuff. So just nice to
Yeah,
kind of see
and
them up
mermaid
close.
purses.
Oh
some of
yeah,
the sharks' eggs, which was
of
nice.
course.
And then there was a plastic oceans one, which was kind of like I always, and I don't know why, there was if anyone watches RuPaul's Drag Race out there was a queen called Plastique Tiara, and for for some reason I think Plastique Oceans, while a horrifying thing, would be an interesting drag queen name. So if there is a drag queen out there called Plastique Oceans, please let me know. But yeah, so there was a Plastic Oceans, which I like this kind of conservation message of highlighting, especially so close to a beach as you are in St Andrews, highlighting don't drop your litter, look where it
Hmm.
ends up in the oceans. Nice to highlight and nice to see there, especially when you're about to walk outdoors,
Hmm.
which is a really nice touch to see some seals, which are an animal, of course, affected, like the animals we've just talked about plastic pollution and all sorts of kind of marine litters and things. So a really nice point to have this kind of really important conservation message pop up. So yes, you walk outside immediately after the kind of Scottish sea life section, and you're out to see four seals, I
Yep.
believe.
Hmm.
Or I've got their names. Let me check. I took a picture because, as I do,
Oh,
I
I
know I
can
would
remember
forget.
three of them. We had
Okay.
Luna. I remember that because it's my cat's name.
Yeah,
I think there was a Nelly.
there was. Like
There
the
was
singer,
a there was a Doug.
Doug. Doug's a star.
And oh wait, there was the fourth one called Silver.
Yes.
Oh, look at that.
Well done. Well done. Yes. So we walked out and we saw the seals, and yeah, it's a really good space, I think, for seals because it's like kind of, it's almost it feels kind of connected to the ocean. It feels like it's kind of this one big space. It's nice. It's kind of a good space for them. I feel like you as individuals can't get too close either, which I think is probably quite good for the, because I think in a lot of
Mhm.
places people go up and start barking at seals and clapping at seals and doing all sorts of sea lion-esque tricks when in
Yep.
fact that has nothing to do with what you're looking at. And so yes, it's nice. It was a good space. Lots and lots of good signage about kind of not
Mhm.
just seals but also sea lions and walruses and kind of all of these other things.
Yeah.
Um,
And they
and
also had signs that were about each of the four specific seals, which I think is a nice touch because people like to know not only about the species in general, but about the animals that you have in that collection specifically. So that was a nice touch as well. I appreciated that.
yes, and I think, yeah, I was a big fan, big fan. And we saw so to save us jumping backwards and forwards, a little bit later on in the day, we watched the seal feed, which was
Hmm.
really, really nice. There, what the keeper educator woman clearly knew her stuff, knew exactly how long it would take her to feed those animals, because she kind of, or appeared to anyway, because she was really good at kind of making the talk that she was giving the exact length as the bucket of food lasted.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important skill for zoo presenters in general, because sometimes animals eat at different paces, but she seemed to make this perfect talk fit exactly with the length of time they happened to take on that particular day, which was nice.
Yeah.
Um,
I was
interesting fact.
appreciating her as well because, as two people who have done many a seal presentation in our time,
Yep.
the fact that she would, like at the aquarium we worked at, we would stand and do the talk, and then the aquarists were over here feeding the animals. Whereas, like, she was feeding them, she was doing the talk, she had like a volunteer who was out feeding as well, and she was doing all of this while standing on like the narrowest little ledge in between the two pools. And I was just like, at some point someone's gone in one side or the other because one step back or one step forward you'd be going in. So we didn't see that on the day we were there, which I was going to say unfortunately, but it's not unfortunate for her. It's probably a blessing for her. But yeah, you just know that's happened at some point. So I feel like she was very good at multitasking on that day. Oh, and also avoiding like dive bombing seagulls as well. So she had a
Yeah.
lot going on, that one woman. So kudos to her.
Yes, and I like the focus, the conservation focus of like why they had seals, where the seals came from, what the kind of circumstances were for their kind of coming about, whether that be kind of if they were injured and taken to a rescue center or if they were born in kind of a rescue center. What it was a nice kind of scene setting. And yeah, there was none of the kind of, and a really good job of kind of explaining these animals don't do tricks. They do exercises that we have to do with them every day to make sure they're ready for health checks and all sorts of things. So it was a nice way to kind of nice talk, lots of interesting stuff going on. It didn't feel like a show. It felt like an
Mhm.
educational presentation that was still entertaining, which I think is very important. And
Yeah.
yes.
And I liked it because I learned something new in that talk that I didn't know
Uh-huh.
before. And again, like we know our way around a seal talk. But they said that St Andrew's Aquarium, they source their fish sustainably depending on
Yeah.
the season. Which I really liked. And I thought it was just a really simple little fact, but I was really glad that they highlighted it because that's what stuck with me from that talk. And I thought that was
Yeah.
really impressive.
Because it's not just buying in bulk whatever's cheapest. It's buying
Yeah.
interesting, varied diet for the animals. Very kind of yeah, I like that. And it's practicing what they preach, which I think is a
Yes.
great thing for any organization to do. Which
Hmm.
yeah, excellent. So we then move on we go back inside. You've seen the seals. You've kind of appreciated them. We've had a taste of Scotland in the last few areas, and that kind of continues with the shark tank.
Hmm.
Now it's not huge 3 meter long sand tiger sharks or big kind of massive things that are intimidating. It's a nice, smaller, but still impressive, well designed, thought out shark tank with, I think, the starry smooth hounds, a couple different types of dogfish, and a couple different types of rays. It looked like there
Hmm.
was kind of thornback rays and all sorts of different things in there, which was nice. And I think a really kind of good use of space again. Nice to kind of continue with the Scottish kind of theme. And yeah, big fan.
Yeah,
Um,
I liked that area as well. Again, I'm coming back to the signage, but I liked the signage in this area because they had not only, the aquarium's own signs, but they had branded signage from both the Marine Conservation Society and the Shark Trust as well. And I really liked that because it was just very informative. It was doing a really good job of highlighting a few different issues and then highlighting those charities as well, which are very worthy charities doing good work. I'm sure we can put a little link down below to their website so you can find out more about them. But I
can
just
do.
like that as an aquarium, they were acknowledging kind of two of the biggest charities that do work for ocean conservation in this country. So I thought it was a sensible use of signage to kind of include them. But yeah, didn't really have much else to say about this area either. Just a fan of the space, really. And it's nice that they were doing their bit to sort of highlight the fact that we do have sharks and rays in Scotland because not a lot of people would know that, as you were talking to Katie about this week in the podcast. Not a lot of people know that. So I think it was really good that it was highlighting some of the animals that we have here in our own country.
Yes, I was going to say as well, if you want to learn more about the work of the Marine Conservation Society, you can listen to either. We had episode 15 of Pangolin the Conservation Podcast, had Catherine Gemmell from the Marine Conservation Society in our The Beginner's Guide to Ocean Conservation, or you could listen to episode 38, which was chatting nature therapy, outdoor education, and Wee Blue Dot with Katie McFarlane, because both those episodes, both those individuals, wonderful women, work for the Marine Conservation Society. They both know more than anyone else probably I know in my life about marine conservation and the work of the Marine Conservation Society. And so, yeah, make sure and check those out to learn even more about the amazing work that those organizations do. And yes, as you say, I'll put links to them down below. So if you want to learn even more about conservation and how to protect wild spaces around you if you live near the beach or form a connection with nature or whatever it is, yeah, go and learn. Go click those links and learn more. So yeah, that kind of, I guess we didn't really talk much about the sharks, but I feel like the educational aspect was the highlight. I think
Hmm.
the theming was good. The kind of yeah, just
I
generally
feel like
very
you don't
nice.
need to talk much about sharks. The sharks will talk for themselves because, I mean, not literally, but just with how cool they are, everyone loves sharks. So people generally will spend a bit of time in that area. They'll read the signs, they'll learn a bit more about them. So yeah, but yeah, moving from Scottish sharks swiftly away from Scotland and over to slightly different climates, we moved on to meerkats in the same space.
Yes, the Kalahari portion of our episode where
It's
no
quite a
fish
jump.
probably live. I don't know if that's a fact, but there was meerkats, and I think yes, an interesting one. I remember hearing the story of the meerkats a while ago about how they were kind of removed from another zoo, or some kind of they'd had issues at another zoo, and then they were brought here, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense, but they're quite cute, so you're kind of like, okay, sure. And kind of, I guess our main experience with the meerkats this time, we didn't spend long looking at them just for the sake of them, but
Mhm.
We did come back and we watched the talk and the feed. And the main thing I remember is the man giving the talk was great because he was so scared to traumatize children because he was feeding the meerkats chopped up chicks. And so he warned the audience about 20 times, if you don't want to see meerkats brutally maul the remains of a chick, please look away. But every time he said that, a deep down part of me was like, I just want to see this more because you're really building it up. And so yes, that was kind of the thing that stuck with me for the meerkats. So I don't know, what did you think?
Yeah, I feel like I don't really have much else to add to the meerkats. It was nice to see like a talk and a feed with them rather than just watching them going about their business. But saying that, meerkats are another one that are a good animal to have in an aquarium, although maybe slightly unusual because it's nothing to do with fish. But good because they're always going to be doing something. Like, there's always going to
Yeah.
be something to watch, something going on. Really charismatic. So it is a good one. Little kids especially, they love them. And it's quite a big enclosure as well. There's a lot of like sort of viewing windows. So plenty of space for people to get in and have a little look and get right down to their level. So yeah, big fan of the space. And yeah, I agree. It was nice to see the talk, but the guy was like, in trying to warn people and maybe put them off watching the chick feeding portion of the talk, actually he just hyped it up more, and people were like rearing to go for that.
Yeah, yeah. It was a bold choice, but I appreciated it. And then from, I suppose, one random aquarium animal to another, you
Yes.
walk up the stairs and are met with two little monkeys.
Yeah.
Is it
So
Lola
anyone
and
who'd just
Charlie?
seen the meerkats and been like, why is there a meerkat in an aquarium? Oh, just you wait, because you don't know what's coming.
Yes. What type of monkey were they? They were,
Some kind of marmoset, I want to say.
yes, yes, they were
Some kind
marmosets.
of marmoset.
Beautiful things, very entertaining things, moving around a lot. Nice kind of switch up again, but still a random choice for an aquarium. And I guess aquariums, yeah, they are usually fish or reptile focused, so it is interesting to have kind of a something different. But yeah, again, random. And I don't know how I make it. I mean, it doesn't detract from the experience. It just is random. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really know how to feel about it.
Well, I'm not mad about it because they're cute, they're nice, they're interesting to see. It was, it highlights another area of conservation. And something I would say about this space is it's another example of aquariums making a clever use of space, because they had in there not only the marmosets, but they also had the tortoises roaming about the bottom, which I think is a good use of space because then you've got an animal who's spending most of its time up at the top of the enclosure, and then you've got other animals who are spending most of their time at the bottom. So it gives you something to look at each end, which I think is just a good decision there, a good move.
Yes, yes, it was red-footed tortoises that they have on the ground. And yeah, they're interesting to see. Beautiful things, bright, funnily enough, red, coloration, and just a nice, yeah, having that excitement contrasting with the kind of chill nature of the other animals.
Yeah,
Good to see.
like it was
Big
kind of
fan.
opposites, but somehow it works and like just complemented each other. And yeah, just a nice enclosure, I think.
Yes, and it draws you into a space which kind of is filled with other unusual smaller creatures. So I guess quite an effective way to kind of
Yeah.
bring you into a space which then has animals which are perhaps less popular, like cockroaches, tarantulas, golden mantella frogs, and there was a type of gecko in there as well. So yeah, it's kind of drawing you back into a jungly theme and using these kind of perhaps really popular animals to then get you to look around a space that has unusual smaller animals as well, which I
Mm.
appreciate. While I mentioned it, did you have any thoughts on the smaller tanks?
I didn't have much else to add, just because you know how I feel about bugs. I think that it's nice that they had them, because it's again adds another element. It's something different to look at. But yeah, the tarantula. Every time I've seen a tarantula before, it kind of hides away. This thing was just out. I mean, it was just slap bang in the middle of it. And yeah, I mean, some people love a tarantula. I'm not one of them. So I kind of moved swiftly on from that. But yeah, I liked the little sort of gecko. I think was there a chameleon as well?
Panther
And I
chameleon.
think that's again pretty big tanks for them. So another animal where it's an example of you can't just walk past, like you have to kind of stand for a minute and look and actually spot them. But then that adds to the fun, like especially if you've got kids, you can stand and you can look for them. I guess the same goes for the little mantella frogs as well, because we know from working in aquariums, we had like an amphibian room that had many a frog in it, and
Mhm.
people would go through it very quickly. But actually, if you took the time to stop and watch them and spot them. Like, you could spend quite a good chunk of time in there. And I'm always a fan of a frog, so I liked that they had them. It's always a nice little addition, the little frogs.
Yes, exactly. Like, yeah, and especially a golden mantella, which is critically endangered species of frog. The breeding programs for them are essential because they will be gone very, very soon. If
Yeah,
not, they occur in such a small area of forest, and it's a nice thing to kind of highlight this amphibian and the plight of amphibians, which again is something that I think is not focused on a lot because of
yeah,
other larger, more kind of popular species. But
yeah,
really nice to see the kind of golden mantella.
yeah. No, it's a
And
nice room for sort of underappreciated animals that might not be everyone's favourite, but still a really important conservation story to be told there.
yes, and from bird eating tarantula to beautiful birds, that then takes you out to their penguins, which,
Yes.
yeah, I don't know. Penguins, I think, always are a winner. They are
Yes, everyone loves penguins.
yes. I don't know a single person in my life who does not like a penguin. I don't know. Oh, remind me, Judy, can you remember the species of penguin? They were
Humboldt penguins.
Humboldt penguins. Yes, big fan of that. And so, yes, I'm trying to think of. I didn't have much to say. There was a couple very friendly penguins who came up and took a selfie with us, which was quite funny.
Yeah.
Uh, and just
Well,
beautiful
what I would
birds.
say about this, less so about the penguins, but more just about the space, is that they've got this sort of lower area where the penguins are, but then you can go up some steps and there's a sort of higher up viewing area, which is good to get a sort of bird's eye view of the penguins on one hand. But then when you look over the other side from up on that path, you get a stunning view of the sea and West Sands out in St Andrews. And on a nice blue sky day, like the day that we were there, just a really nice little sort of tranquil spot to just take a breather in the middle of your aquarium visit. Go out there, take it all in, listen to the sea, breathe in that sea air, take a few pictures if you're so inclined. And it's just a nice chill moment when you go out to see the penguins. So I liked it.
Yes, I think so. You have the most beautiful view of St Andrews and of the West Sands, and yeah, I really appreciate that viewing spot. And I think what I like about having penguins and other charismatic kind of is it a megafauna? No, it's kind of a charismatic bird in a place like this is I think that they highlight that I think a conservation message that's really important, and it's the fact that like even if you don't care about fish or you don't find sea bass particularly charismatic or you don't like kind of whatever it is, what I like about having birds and kind of these larger species is that it kind of highlights the fact that if you don't protect all of the animals you've seen previously, we'll no longer have the more popular animals like penguins
Mm.
because they suffer when their prey populations are fished or overfished, they suffer, their numbers decrease. When there are other kind of reckless human events, if there's oil spills or if there's kind of all sorts of things, then these larger charismatic animals are affected. And so you kind of have you have to have these kind of representatives of the species in these beautiful places where you can overlook the sea. Yeah, these kind of popular icons. I don't know where I was going with this, but I just kind of, I appreciated having them there.
Yeah, yeah. It's a nice way to sort of cohesively tie everything together. Like everything that you've seen in the aquarium, you realize like it all sort of works in unison with each other. So you've got to protect it all.
Yes, exactly. So you summed that up perfectly for me. And yes, that kind of brings us to the end of the penguins. And we have one more section left, which is kind of the more tropical underwater species.
Mm.
So this is kind of the last area you enter, and it's got things like pufferfish, lionfish, clownfish, all the kind of popular fish of the fish world because of the colorful, bright ones that you see on documentaries and films all the time. Regal tangs. What were those eely things you liked? There was
Oh my goodness. Right. I feel like in this area, I was very excited at numerous points, and neither Jack nor the friend that we were with were matching my level of excitement. And in fact, they were looking at me like I was mental. I really liked this area. So we had in quick succession, and anyone who's listened again to previous ReZoos will know that I'm a fan of these. We had seahorses, we had not one, not two, but three different types of pufferfish, which I was very impressed with, the representation of the pufferfish. And then you had the little garden eels, which I just love. I love them. If anyone doesn't know what they are, go and look at a picture. They're just these little eel things that pop up out of the sand. And I guess they're just like kind of moving with the movement of the water, but the effect of it makes it look like they're just kind of wiggling around. They're so weird. They're so funny. They're kind of cute in a weird way. I love them. And I was just kind of standing, grinning away, like copying the little head bobbing thing that they do. I'm doing it now. The listeners can't see it, but I'm doing it now. And Jack and our friend were just kind of looking at me like I was mental and edging further and further away. But I was a big fan of this area for all of those reasons.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you should just keep going. I feel like because we then had the
Okay. Well, then we
lionfish
had
and
the
puffer fish.
lionfish with and this is a display, perhaps less so in COVID times, but in normal times, people love a display like this. It's one that you can crawl under and into, and then you kind of pop up into another one of those bubble dome things. So it's like your head is in the middle of the tank, and they're all swimming around you. And obviously, it's lionfish that are swimming around, which is a really impressive fish just to look at. So it's a cool thing to have swimming around you, but also it's cool in the aspect that you probably wouldn't really want to get as close to those animals, in real life if you were swimming in the sea with them, because you'd probably regret that very quickly because of all their spines. So yeah, just a really nice little moment. And again, literally a little peaceful bubble in the middle of your busy aquarium visit. You just go up in this bubble and you've got fish swimming around your head, and that's nice. And then I came out. Oh, this was the area, though, just to highlight one thing that kind of spoiled this really nice area of the aquarium. Was nothing to do with the aquarium. Lovely, peaceful, tranquil moment that then gets ruined, not by anything to do with St Andrew's Aquarium, but to do with people. And again, if you've listened to any previous episodes where we've talked about our pet peeves, then you will know that this is a big pet peeve of ours, which is people banging on the glass. And there was one child in particular who was not only banging on the glass, he also had a football with him in the aquarium for some reason, that he was bouncing around and banging off stuff. And yeah, when I say he was banging on the glass, I don't just mean a little tap. I mean, he was hammering on it. And we were not appreciating that as aquarium people, but even normal visitors around about, everyone kind of stopped and turned around and looked. It's not okay. It's not good. Don't do that. Surely it's common sense. You don't do that to the animals. And yeah, the parents were just standing, watching, doing nothing, and was not pleased. And I know that you weren't either. You were very riled up.
I am so glad you brought this up, but also worried because I feel like this could come across as if I hate children and parents. That's not true. I think parents and children should go to aquariums and go to places and experience these things and fall in love with animals and gain an appreciation for nature and do these things. But if you thump the glass like a hooligan, it is the closest, and actually I'm getting physically, it was the closest I've ever come to actually shouting at someone else's child when I'm not I'm not employed by the place. I'm not trying to crowd control. I'm not trying to make sure exhibits that I'm in charge of looking after are maintained and kept safe. The way that the child was hitting the glass was had he hit it at the right point, it felt like it would have shattered the glass. And it wasn't a once-off bang like a mistake. It was a repeated thud, thud, thud.
Yeah.
And it really just irked me. And the parents just kind of looked at him and kind of laughed it off almost. And it's that's not funny, because it doesn't just ruin the experience for everyone around about you. It teaches your child that it's okay to act in that way and be disrespectful to nature. So what do you think they're going to do when they get out into the real world? They're not going to respect the animals that they see out there either. They're going to destroy their homes and they're going to mess around with them. And it also stresses out the animals that are there. These are places that are meant to be educational facilities. They're meant to be conservation institutions. They're meant to be respected and they're meant to be learned from. And if you go into these places and you don't respect them, it's just disappointing, especially when I feel like nowadays, if a child is not educated to look after the environment as kind of a pillar of their upbringing, I feel like there's a problem there. And I'm not going to tell anyone how to parent because I'm not a parent and I don't know how I would do it. But that's certainly not how I would be parenting. I was so angry. I was so and I probably sound quite scathing. This is the first negative ReZOO I've given was of this people's parenting
I know,
style.
and it's not even of the place. It's just of people. But it's just
angry.
It's 2022. People know that you don't do that, and it's not just kids, adults, everyone knows, and you don't even really have the excuse of, oh, it's just a kid, they don't know. Kids do know. It's aquarium and zoo 101. You don't bang on the glass. So if you're choosing to do that, it's not because you don't know better, it's because you're choosing to do it and it's disrespectful.
Hmm. Exactly. And like Finding Nemo, the villain of Finding Nemo, apart from the person who steals Nemo, is a small child who bangs on glass. I
Mm-hmm.
reject anyone who has not seen that film and has not seen the Shining-esque, Psycho-esque music plays when she comes into the scene. And like this
Yeah.
little child was like, is it Darla?
Darla,
Darla.
yes. Don't
Darla.
be a Darla.
Don't
That's the
be a
message of
Darla.
this whole episode. Don't be a Darla.
Don't be a Darla. Don't be a Darla, or I'm gonna come into your like outside your house while you're trying to sleep and have a chill time and start banging on your windows. See how much you like it, because I guarantee you won't. And like I'll be dragged away by the police, but we can't do that for. That's how bad it is. That's how annoying it is, and that's how much you shouldn't be doing it to animals as well. So
Yeah.
annoying. And I've made
And
a
it was
joke
just
about it
something
now,
really chill,
but
like the seahorses as well. And it's like, what do you think they're gonna do by banging on the glass? Ugh.
it
Anyway,
just.
let's lighten that up. Yes, he was banging on the glass, which is unfortunate, but it was of a tank full of seahorses, which are lovely. We like seahorses. We appreciate them. I think they were big-bellied seahorses. I
They
want to
were.
say
They
yes,
were.
which we're well acquainted with. Always lovely to see. And yeah, other than the little Darla who was just banging away on all the glass, I feel like it was a really nice area of the aquarium, and it's a nice one to end on as well because, as you say, it is the kind of brightly coloured, charismatic, maybe more tropical fish. Like, it's a nice room to end on, I think.
Yes, and I think especially with kind of jumping back a step was the lionfish, where you got the kind of invasive species conservation message. So lionfish
Mm-hmm.
were introduced into areas where they're not meant to be, and they're kind of this invasive species which now has to be hunted and removed because they're eating and kind of destroying local wildlife. And so interesting to have that kind of message. You then had a coral reefy type message. I feel like there's so many messages that can be kind of interwoven through this area and are big, strong messages to finish up on when you've kind of
Mm-hmm.
started with the Amazon message, you've moved through into the plastic message, you've then come up into the weird monkey kind of
The
meerkat
monkey
message, which
message,
I'm not
whatever
sure that
that
is.
is.
Yeah, no idea what the message is. No. And then you've kind of got the penguins that kind of bring it back. And then, yeah, it's just a good, strong message to then leave on this kind of crescendo of.
Maybe I've just had a thought. Maybe the monkey message is like the pet trade message, because was that not how they got them? Were they not rescued? And then all the other kind of littler animals in there are smaller things that could be kept as pets. Maybe
We'll go
that's
with
the
that.
message. Let's go with
I
that.
feel
We've
like
made our own message.
Yeah, go with that. Well, pet trade bad. There we go. Um, so yes, I feel like yeah, and that kind of brings us to the end. I don't know. There's good. I think this has been one of the most fun, silly, just genuinely stupid reviews we've done because I think
Yeah.
we've both just been smiling the whole time. Uh, but yeah, a really good time. A really good time.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing before our two starfish and a wish,
Mm-hmm.
and our words to sum up the aquarium. The last things to kind of mention the only bonus thing really is ticket price, which is £12 for
Mm-hmm.
adults.
I think
Um,
mine was cheaper because I'm a student. Mine was like a pound cheaper, but still,
ooh,
every pound counts.
yeah, so not awful. Not £12. Aquariums tend to be more expensive. Realistically, we probably spent 2 hours, 2 and a bit hours going round.
Mm-hmm.
Could have maybe stretched it out longer if we'd gone to more of the talks. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say not too bad, especially like when you compare it to other like we've just come off a big Fife kick. We've reviewed the Deer Center, which is a similar pricing structure and probably would take about maybe slightly longer.
Mm.
Fife Zoo is about less than half the price, but this is an aquarium which tends to be more like it fits in with the price level I'd expect.
But it's
And
still, I feel like it's still cheaper than other aquariums that we've been to. And I feel like for £12, like, I wouldn't mind. I'm not turning my nose up at that price. I think £12 for an afternoon in St Andrew's Aquarium, I feel perfectly happy to have spent that. I don't feel ripped off. I feel like I got my money's worth, especially if you go to a
yeah,
few talks as well. Yeah, whole thing. Just, I feel like it is good value for money.
yeah, I think so. And I think yeah, it's a couple things where like yeah, if you think about other Scottish aquariums, I think Deep Sea World is now charging about 15, £16 an adult, probably a little bit more than that. Sea Life Loch Lomond, which we'd reviewed previously, was about £16 per ticket. So it's a little bit cheaper than competing aquariums. And yeah, I don't think it's much smaller. Like I don't think and it's
Yeah.
got much less. So yeah, can't complain really at that price. Yeah, perfect. Well,
Yeah. The only other bonus that
oh,
I had was about the gift shop,
oh yes,
which there wasn't much to say about the gift shop. It's just kind of your standard gift shop with everything in it that you'd expect. The only thing I did want to highlight about the gift shop, which was different than any other gift shop that I had been in, was that I feel like it acknowledged where it is located and it made the most of that because it was selling things like kind of beach balls and buckets and
yeah,
spades and that kind of thing, which I actually think was a really clever move because obviously it's right next to the beach. So if people have come for a day out and they've gone to the aquarium, they can then buy a bucket and spade. Probably one of the only places you could kind of buy that near the beach in St Andrews. Can't think of anywhere else that would really obviously sell buckets and spades. So it's quite a good move, I think.
yeah. I think so. I think so. And yeah, I would say good time. Yeah, I didn't buy anything, but again, it's the gift shop kind of skewed younger. I think,
Yeah,
um,
they
which
generally
no
do.
problem. Yes. So yeah, can't complain about that either. Uh, generally a good time. So that brings us on to our final section, our wrap up section, which is our two starfish and a wish.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would be your first starfish, Jodie?
My first star would be, what would it be?
Starfish, Jodie.
Starfish. Okay, it's got
There
to be
you
a
go.
starfish. I think my first starfish for St Andrews Aquarium would be it's a good use of space. And I think what I mean by that is that, as we talked about previously, whenever we mention aquariums, we talk about the fact that aquariums typically are smaller.
Yep.
They are small, they're compact. Whereas with St Andrews Aquarium, although it is like the building is still small, probably comparable to other Scottish aquariums, I never think it feels small when you're
No.
inside. It feels like quite a long sort of time that you're in there. And I do wonder if it's to do with the layout because other aquariums that we've been to, you kind of go in, it's maybe sort of one main room, and then there's a few sort of rooms going off in various directions. Whereas St Andrews Aquarium isn't like that. It feels quite unique in that you go in and it's like you're moving from room to room. So it feels like it's taking you on a route. And every so often there's a little branch off where you go out to the seals and then come back in and rejoin the route. But because it's moving you through it, through separate rooms, it feels a bit bigger. It makes it feel bigger than it probably is and feel a bit longer. And yeah, I just think it's a good use of space and it makes it feel like quite a long trip for an aquarium, whereas sometimes other aquariums can feel like they're over in a flash.
Yes.
Does that make
That's a
sense?
very
It
good
makes
point.
sense in my head.
I think so. It's a journey, it's an experience, and it's a good use of time and space.
Yeah,
So,
and the reason that I highlight it as one of my starfish is just because it is quite unusual to leave an aquarium feeling that way. So it's quite unique in my head, St Andrews Aquarium, because of that.
yes, I would say, yeah, excellent starfish. Excellent starfish. I suppose my first one would be. I really need to start thinking about these before we start recording. But I like to be spontaneous. I like to remember them as we go on. I think one of my favorite things. I don't know if I should wrap it all. I'm gonna just wrap it all in one area. Is that first zone, that first kind of jungly
Mm.
area that I think starts it on such a high note. It's got species that you don't see in a lot of places. It's got displays that are really well done. The animals are fantastic, beautiful, wonderful, unusual. And yeah, I think it just starts your journey. I think there's something to be said, like with Chester with the elephants, and like with kind of actually, I don't know if anyone apart from Chester has started that strongly. But yeah, this has started it's obviously scaled down from elephants, but it's as an impressive, strong start, which I really,
Hmm.
really liked. And I think is so important in terms of setting up how you view your day and how you kind of experience everything that comes next. So yeah, really strong start to your adventure. Yeah. I don't know. Jodie, did you have thoughts on that? Or shall we move on to star number two?
Yeah, no, I'm just in my head. I'm thinking about what my next star would be. I'm tempted to say the signage because you know me and my signs, but I think my second star has to go to the little garden eels just because I love
Yeah.
them. They make me smile every time I see them. They just bring me joy for no apparent reason, but I just love them. And I feel like anyone that knows me, like, I don't know, I can be a little bit difficult to please. And like my auntie, for example, once described me as cynical and joyless. In a loving way, she described me as that. She knows me very well. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, that pretty much sums me up. So it takes a lot to make me just like smile like an idiot for no reason and just be really sort of jolly and happy. And these little garden eels managed to do that. So I feel like they have to get my star.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's fair. I think that's very fair.
They just make me happy, Jack.
What an odd one. But yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll take that. I love, yeah. I hope no one ever reviews our podcast joyless. She is joyless. Looking forward to reading that review on iTunes or where it is. Uh, but no, I agree. They were, well, less for me, but for you, I could tell it was a very special moment. For me, I feel like the second star would go to the. I'm going to go with the seals and specifically
Mhm.
the seal talk. Really well done, really educational. Woman clearly knew her stuff. She'd clearly done it 100 times before, and even if she hadn't, it felt so confident and put forward and educated. It just felt so strong, and I really appreciated it. And so, yeah, I think my second star would have to be the seals. Loved the space, loved the name Doug, loved just the whole experience. So, yeah, I think seals would be number two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Sticking with
it's a
locking
strong
seals
one.
in, yes. But having said positives, we then have to flip the coin and say negatives. So if you have one wish, one way that this aquarium could improve, what would it be?
I don't know. I've been sitting here thinking about it. Well, we've been talking about our stars, and I just don't really know what my wish would be because, like, I didn't really have an issue with anything. I really liked everything. I guess, like, the only wish that I would have is that there was more of it. Like, I wish there was more. Like, I wish it kept going. And, like, not in a bad way. Like, you know, sometimes you come out of an aquarium or a place and you might feel like, oh, is that it? Like, and you want more because it was lacking. I don't feel like I want more because what was there was lacking. I feel like I want more because what is there I like so much. I just want it to keep
Mhm.
going.
And I think, yeah, I would agree with that. And I think in terms of aquariums in Scotland, what I'm going to say is going to sound odd, given that we've just so highly reviewed it. But I think I would agree that my wish would be I want more. And this is a compliment, what I'm about to say, but it's going to sound odd, an odd way to phrase a compliment. But
Yeah.
I think with just slightly more, it would rival any other aquarium in Scotland. And what I mean by that is both of the other aquariums that I can think of, Deep Sea World and Loch Lomond Sea Life, have a huge shark underwater tunnel type experience, one tropical, one kind of cold. So you kind of have these Goliaths to compete with in a way.
Hmm.
And it's not that that makes St. Andrews worse. It just means that it's kind of already fighting this kind of not losing battle, but it's kind of a step down because you're not getting this kind of big wow tunnel moment which you get at every other aquarium in Scotland. So I
Hmm.
wish it had that because if it had that, it would be the best aquarium
Yeah.
I would say in
Yeah.
Scotland. So it's this weird like backhanded compliment in a way where it's the best, but it's the best of kind of the not lightweight debate. That sounds so rude. But
You
you
know
know what I
what?
mean? It's
I know
just
what you mean though. Like if it had that, then it's like it would be lacking nothing. Like the
yeah.
only thing that you could maybe say, if you'd been to all the aquariums in Scotland, the only thing maybe you could say about St Andrews is, oh, it didn't have a sort of didn't have big sharks, it didn't have a tunnel or whatever. But to bring it back to St Andrews and how positive it is, and again, this sounds like slagging off the others, which is not what I'm meaning to do. But sometimes the other ones, because they have those big tunnels, they sort of rest on that a little bit, like resting on their laurels, because they know they've got a big,
Mhm.
impressive thing like sharks. Maybe the other things, they don't need to carry quite as much weight. So if you've got a few tanks that maybe are just just fish tanks, or maybe a few sort of
Mhm.
filler tanks, you get away with that because the thing that's pulling the focus is the big tunnel with the big sharks. Whereas because St Andrews knows it doesn't have that to just sort of rest on, it's almost like it has to work harder on all the other tanks that it does have. And I think it hits it every time because every tank is like a big hitter rather than just filler, and it's all really good. So, but yeah,
Mhm.
because then everything else is at a really good quality. If you then added a tunnel on top of that and still maintain the quality of everything else and the wow factor of everything else, then it would be like missing nothing. Like there's nothing more that you could wish for with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think so. I agree. Exactly. So it's not really it's like, and I suppose the ticket price. Yeah. The ticket price
Yeah.
reflects that, and so you
Yeah.
can't be that mad. So really, I don't know what the wish is there, but we've talked around an issue that I'm sure someone will have gathered something from. Uh, and yeah, other aquariums in Scotland, I'm looking at you. Stop relying on that body of water.
Yep.
um, no.
No, but it's all said with love because we do love these
We want
places
the
and we have
best.
worked in some of them.
Exactly.
It is always said with love.
And we want the very best. We want the most people to be educated about conservation in the best way, and that's why we're critical sometimes of places. So, but before we go,
Constructively critical though, and as
I
long as
think
it's constructive, then it's can be used, so it's all useful.
exactly. And so yes, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, and can't really say any more except for our one-word review,
Yes,
which
I'm ready.
oh, unusual sentence to come out of your
Mm.
mouth. I'm ready. What would it
I
be?
know, because you always hit me with this, and then I'm like, oh, right at the end, I panic. But
Yep.
I've been thinking about this all the while we've been chatting about our starfish and our wishes, and I've decided that I know what my word is, and it's sticking with the pun theme, which you're either going to love or hate.
Yeah.
But I just love St Andrew's Aquarium so much. On the whole, it's a lovely location, it's a lovely day out, it's a lovely collection. So my word for St Andrew's Aquarium is fantastic.
Oh no. I mean, yeah, okay.
Because it's fantastic. Like, it really is just fantastic. I love it. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. Always a nice day out. And I thought, how can I make that more fishy, more aquarium related? We started with the starfish pun at the beginning, so we're ending it with a fish pun at the end with fantastic.
Yes. I think that's the perfect way to sum up the journey, and I think that is the perfect. I think we should end now before we do anything else more horrifying than that. So, yes, thank you so much, listeners, once again for tuning in, eh,
Oh.
for tuning in to this episode of ReZOO, the Zoo Review podcast. Thank you, Jodie, for your fantastic contributions and for visiting with me once again. And yes, until next time, make sure to subscribe on your podcast streaming service of choice, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're on all of them. So go there, click follow, click subscribe, do whatever you need to do. Also, follow us on social media to keep up to date with the show and everything that's going to be coming up. I think we've stayed fairly on track with getting a ReZOO out every few weeks, every month or so. And we've got some big plans for the rest of the year.
We do.
Me and Jodie have a trip coming up where we will be going down to London and we'll be having a visit to London Aquarium, London Zoo, and Whipsnade Zoo. So there's some big ones coming up. Very excited for. And so, yes, really looking forward to those and ReZooing those for all of you to listen to. But yes, I guess, did you have any final thoughts, Jodie, before we wrap up?
No. You ask me this at the end of every one, and you wrap it up so well, and then you hit me with that, and I never have anything enlightening or eloquent to say. So
did you just say eloquent?
Yeah, because I was thinking about Drag Race, and they always go like eloquent. So now that's what I always say.
Okay.
So yeah. So on that note, I have nothing eloquent to say other than goodbye.
Bye, everyone.